I would like to start my presentation by introducing myself. My name is Cerah and I'm a graduate student in sociology and criminology. And today I'm presenting as an organizer with the group Winnipeg Police Cause Harm, as well as a concerned citizen of Winnipeg in response to the proposed 2021 budget. Specifically, I would like to speak to the proposed increase in funding for the Winnipeg Police Services in 2021. In spite of numerous prolonged calls from the community and experts in these fields, especially over the last 12 months, to defund the Winnipeg Police and divert resources and funding instead to community services, we are seeing a proposed increase of $8.5 million in total spending in 2021. The Winnipeg Police are by far one of the highest funded departments in the city. Proponents claim that this increase is being made in the names of increasing public safety in Winnipeg through the use of Winnipeg Police services and officers. Such an increase is in direct opposition to the needs of constituents that you, our city councillors, represent. This is explicitly evidenced not only by responses to the citizen survey and the preliminary 2021 budget, in addition to others, because I know that issue has been brought up, but also by movements that have happened and continue to happen in our city, including Justice for Black Lives Winnipeg and Justice for Aisha, Not Another Indigenous Life. These highlight the multiple and repeated ways in which Winnipeg police officers cause safety crises, violence, and harms instead of creating safety. Since the start of November, Winnipeg Police Cause Harm has received dozens of firsthand accounts of Winnipeg police officers being unmasked and not properly distanced in their interactions with residents, despite public health orders in Manitoba's Code Red that mandate the use of masks in public. These concerns that were expressed to us are directly related to the proposed budget. As previously mentioned, the Winnipeg Police is one of the city's highest funded departments, and these accounts show that they are unable or unwilling to abide by basic health guidelines during a pandemic. This reality requires us to reevaluate why we are funding this department and, in defunding the Winnipeg Police Services, where this funding could instead be allocated to. I would like to share just a couple of those stories with you today and remind you that these are your constituents that are speaking about their lived experiences and how this directly relates to the budget. The first account states that in mid-November, 6 police officers with 2 assault rifles and a canine unit stopped in front of my house and took position on my front lawn to eventually arrest a man a few doors down. Of those 6 officers, 3 were not wearing masks, including one of the officers who led the charge into my neighbor's home with an assault rifle. I question whether the extreme militarization of police is necessary or an effective use of resources.
Interrupt you. Again, the Executive Policy Committee does not have jurisdiction over operational matters of the police service.
I'm aware.
We're trying to call delegations to speak specifically to the budget. And,
yeah, and I'm gonna echo what.
So if you can please give your comments to the funding levels and maybe options on how you would recommend changing those funding levels or how they could be reallocated.
So what I'm doing here is I am contextualizing the need to reallocate funds and defund the Winnipeg Police, considering that a substantial increase has been suggested in the proposed 2021 budget. So these stories do contextualize that. I'm aware that the EPC does not have jurisdiction over that, but these stories are contextualizing that. And I just echo what Dr. Ashdown said in that I am speaking to the budget here. And so I am going to continue with that. And I do specifically address the budget and where we can reallocate funds in my presentation. So we can see through some of these stories that police have brought both violence and endangered public health. This is what council is choosing to continue to fund above all other public services. To continue, another individual stated, "They came to my house and wanted to look inside. 2 male police officers were completely unmasked. When I asked why they weren't wearing masks, they told me that they would only wear masks if I had COVID-19 or symptoms. They brushed off my concerns and continued to push through my house unmasked." Another said, "I had the police called on me for a wellness check a couple of weeks ago, and the 5 of them stood in my personal space with no masks." Another stated, "A police officer pulled me over and he was not wearing a mask. I have dash cam video." Again, evidence of police actively endangering the health of others, but continuing to receive increased funding for their services, despite continually failing to care about or act in accordance with safety measures, is obvious here. The behavior of the police is directly related to the funding that they received. And by council moving to approve the $8.5 million increase, they are, in essence, approving that sort of behavior. Lastly, and most recently, I would like to note that just this week, video footage of a Winnipeg police officer responding violently with threats at a traffic stop when a passenger asked why he wasn't wearing a mask within 6 feet of the car went viral. Today, a video of the same officer failing to distance from an individual and instead moving closer to their personal space despite being asked to respect it emerged. The Winnipeg Police does little to hold its officers accountable for the harm and intimidation tactics they implement, evidenced by the lack of consequences other than an internal talking to faced by the officer who was videotaped changing his mind to ticket a driver after being asked why he was not wearing a mask when he was clearly not properly distanced from the individual's car. Instead of funneling more money and resources to an already bloated department in our city, your constituents are here once again asking you to reflect on the realities and lived experiences that many of them are sharing with you. It is clear that the Winnipeg Police do not serve and protect our communities. Instead, they harm, threaten, intimidate, and violate the health and safety of citizens. These firsthand accounts and experiences of constituents that you as councillors are representing exhibit the systemic nature and pattern of public health and safety risks that police pose. We are once again asking you to implement a 10% cut to the Winnipeg Police Services at the very minimum, as proposed by Councillor Sherry Rollins during the summer, and redirect these funds to community services that would work to reduce harm in our city, particularly in the times of a global pandemic wherein the health and safety of our citizens should be put first and foremost. Instead of rewarding Winnipeg Police Services for their disregard of Code Red public health orders with more money in 2021, it is imperative that you work with community service providers and members to invest in life-sustaining services that actually keep people safe, like housing, harm reduction, and food security to begin with. A number of others have been brought up today by other delegates, and I would just like to thank all of those delegates for the presentations they've put together, and I would like to thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.